In 2006 and 2007, hotel workers in over a dozen cities across North America stood together in a fight to improve their working conditions and move their families forward. Allies from diverse communities stood shoulder to shoulder with us. We understood that we were stronger together. We took our fight to the streets, and we won the best contracts ever. We won better health insurance, stronger health and safety language, and the biggest wage increases. Together, we raised the standards for thousands of union hotel workers and their families across North America. Perhaps most importantly, we won the right for thousands of new workers to have a fair process to join the union. Now these victories are under attack. We need to decide whether we will let the hotel companies like Hilton, Starwood, Marriott, Hyatt, and Westmont move us backward, or whether we have the strength to move forward. A key company in this fight is Hyatt Hotels, which in city after city is leading the fight against middle-class jobs for hotel workers. Hyatt is a global company, among the largest lodging corporations in the world, a company worth over $5.5 billion. Hyatt has been hit by the recession. Like other companies, Hyatt has seen its revenues drop as occupancies and room rates decline. But Hyatt is well positioned to survive the recession. Hyatt has over $1.3 billion in the bank and no serious debt coming due. Hyatt has rewarded its executives. Last August, Hyatt gave $1.6 million in company stock to CEO Mark Hoplamazian. He received an additional 105,000 shares, worth approximately $3.16 million in December. Hyatt is majority owned and controlled by the Pritzker family of Chicago, a billionaire family and one of the 10 richest families in the world. In November 2009, they sold 1/4 of their holdings in the company and cashed out $900 million in one day. Members of the Pritzker family are significant donors to the Democratic Party. Penny Pritzker was Barack Obama's finance chair for his campaign and now sits on the president's Economic Recovery Advisory Board, charged with helping Obama lead our country out of our deep recession. In cities across the US and Canada, Hyatt is using the recession as a tool to make hotel jobs into worse jobs. In contract negotiations in San Francisco, Chicago, and Los Angeles, Hyatt is proposing long-term contracts with minimal wage increases and rollbacks in health insurance. Hyatt is also laying off workers while forcing others to work overtime. In so doing, Hyatt is creating fewer and worse jobs. Over the years, the hospitality industry has squeezed more profit from our labor, getting us to work harder for less. 20 years ago, on average, full-service hotels across the country employed about 70 workers per 100 hotel rooms. Today, it's just over 50 workers per 100 hotel rooms. Staffing levels dropped dramatically during the last recession in 2001, and even as profits soared for the hotel industry in the years to come, staffing levels never returned. What happened to all those jobs? In the last decade, we've watched housemen, among others, disappear from our hotels. These staffing cuts have only intensified in this current recession, forcing many of us to do the work of 2 or 3 people, while some of our coworkers have no work at all. Today, Hyatt is an industry leader in this trend. Will Hyatt, Starwood, Hilton, and the other big hotel chains ever bring people back to work as we climb out of the current recession? In many non-union hotels, workers have called on Hyatt to accept a fair process to enable them to choose whether or not to form a union without employer intimidation. Hyatt has refused. At non-union Hyatts, many workers make low wages and endure dangerous working conditions. Housekeepers at some non-union Hyatts earn as little as $7.25 an hour and are required to clean as many as 30 rooms a day, compared to an average of 15 at unionized Hyatt hotels. Celia Alvarez worked at a non-union Hyatt in Long Beach, California for 15 years before becoming permanently injured. She says, "Cleaning between 25 and 30 rooms a day demands working fast, and this is how I hurt my body. I injured my lower back and shoulder, and I can no longer work as a housekeeper. I have pain every day." The most dramatic example of how Hyatt is hurting hotel workers in hard times is in Boston, where Hyatt fired approximately 100 non-union room cleaners in its 3 Boston area hotels. These employees, some of whom had worked with a company over 20 years, were all fired and replaced with subcontracted employees who were paid the minimum wage. What's worse, Hyatt required the workers to train their own replacements. Corporina Bellis, one of the Hyatt 100, says, "I gave 20 years of my life to that hotel. My shoulders, my elbows, my knees stayed in that hotel." Responding to public outcry around the firing of the Hyatt 100 housekeepers in Boston, Hyatt released a public statement saying, "Even if we could go back and make these tough changes in a different way, though, we still would have had to have made them. Like many companies and organizations struggling through hard times, we have not been able to avoid making tough decisions in response to revenue declines." But Hyatt's profitability has been improving, and hotel analysts see recovery for the entire hotel industry coming this year. Between 2010 and 2014, the average increase in revenues is projected to be 8% annually for full-service hotels. In some cities, like Chicago and Honolulu, we may see that rebound even sooner. Why then are Hyatt and other big hotel companies like Starwood and Hilton still laying off workers? Why did Hyatt replace dedicated housekeepers with subcontracted labor? When they're projecting a big return in profits in the years to come, why are companies like Hyatt, Starwood, and Hilton seeking to lock workers into long-term contracts that leave them worse off? Hyatt and the other big hotel corporations like Starwood, Hilton, Marriott, and Westmont have been hit by the recession, but they also have a plan to recover. We fought hard to move ahead, and they hope they can use the weak economy to take us backward. By laying off workers, having the remaining workforce carry an even heavier workload burden, reduce or eliminate workers' health care coverage, lock us into cheap contracts with minimal or no raises for years to come. What's more, by refusing to remain neutral when workers organize, Hyatt hopes they can stop more workers from joining with us. We have a different plan. Throughout North America, hotel workers are fighting back. Already, workers are taking action, picketing and holding public demonstrations. In Chicago and San Francisco, hundreds of workers have submitted to arrest in coordinated acts of civil disobedience to show Hyatt and the other companies we work for that we are not afraid to fight back against permanent job cuts and long-term concessions. Starting with the Grand Hyatt in San Francisco, hotel workers in San Francisco have even carried out a wave of strikes at hotels across the city. Oralyn Rush was one of the many workers who participated in a 3-day strike at the Grand Hyatt in San Francisco in November 2009. A telephone operator at the hotel and cancer survivor, Rush said of the fight, "Hyatt's cashed out almost $1 billion for its owners, but at the same time, they're pushing to make healthcare unaffordable for me and my family. That is unforgivable, and we're not going to stand for it." In cities where hotel contracts have already expired, like Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Toronto, hotel workers have led these public fights, and many more cities will join our contract fight in 2010. Non-union Hyatt workers are fighting back too. Last year, Hyatt housekeepers launched a multi-city tour to end the abuse of women in the hotel industry, taking the symbol of their movement, the Hope Quilt, to places like Long Beach, Santa Clara, Indianapolis, San Antonio, and San Francisco, where Hyatt workers are organizing. At public events across the country, Hyatt housekeepers shared stories of struggle in the difficult and sometimes dangerous work they do every day. In November, union and non-union hotel workers united in over a dozen cities across North America, calling on Hyatt to rehire the Hyatt 100 housekeepers in Boston. I've met other housekeepers from the non-union Hyatt Regency in Indianapolis, and it pains me to know that workers there are treated so differently than me and my coworkers in Chicago, says Ofelia Martinez, who has worked at the Park Hyatt in Chicago for over 15 years. That's why in Chicago, we're standing with our brothers and sisters at the Hyatt Regency Indianapolis and all over the country, union and non-union workers. We're stronger when we stand together. And we're not alone. Community leaders from across the country, clergy from many faiths, local and national political allies, leaders in the lesbian and gay community, and others are standing with us in our fight for equality and an economic recovery for real working people. Our movement is growing, and our community partners, like the rabbis who led a delegation to Hyatt executives at their Chicago headquarters last November to call on them to bring back the Hyatt 100, or the gay rights activists in San Diego who have partnered with us to take on Doug Manchester, owner of the second largest Hyatt in North America, are on the front lines of our fight and make us stronger every day. We can build on our work together in recent months to come out even stronger in the coming year, joining union workers in citywide hotel contract fights all across North America, where we are taking on Hyatt and other major hotel owners and operators like Starwood, Hilton, Westmont, and Marriott, with non-union Hyatt workers who are organizing in 5 cities, and boycotts at 7 Hyatt properties in Boston and California. The only hope our nations have of real, long-term economic recovery depends on the creation of more good middle-class jobs with decent wages and health care our families can afford. In 2006, we fought to raise the standards for our jobs so that thousands of hotel workers in the US and Canada could achieve that dream. This year, as hotel workers fighting in nearly 20 different cities throughout North America, we have the opportunity to continue that struggle. Hyatt and the other big hotel chains have a choice: a jobless hotel recovery or contributing to Obama's recovery for all Americans. By standing together, we can achieve an economic recovery for hotel workers, not just the companies we work for. We can decide whether we allow these companies to use the economy as an excuse to push us back, or whether we can grow and get stronger to move forward together in the years to come.